we have ourselves a little bit of a ranking dispute. All right, my man. So we saw our fight of the night. Davey Grant and Adrian Yanez. The always dangerous Davey Grant put up a very valiant effort. And first off, hey man, we almost got a damn robbery report on our hands. However, it's all good. It's all settled. But one judge, I don't remember who the actual judge was, but he gave it 37 to Davey Grant. 30-27, excuse me, to Davey Grant over Adrian Yanez. In what world do you see that happening? No world. It didn't happen. I don't care what fight you were watching. I don't care if you were blindfolded. You could have even listened to the fight and heard that. That was not a 30-27 for Davey Grant. Rant aside, this puts Adrian Yanez in a very interesting predicament, AJ. And let me set the table real fast. Folks, the same thing that I said about Islam Makhachev when he defeated Thiago Moises, who at the time was ranked number 14 or 15 or something, it gave Islam Makhachev a really big bump and a big boost into the rankings. Yes, is there context that needs to be provided? Of course. Makhachev was already on a nice run. This was the one ranked opponent that was really going to set the table for him. All right, cool. But in this situation, Chito Vera fought Davey Grant, and though he was already on that borderline of the between 13 and 16, 17, ranked fighter, he got a pretty big stock boost after defeating Davey Grant as well. And his was a little more definitive, right? He bloodied up Davey Grant a little more vicious elbows and all that good stuff. But either way, if Marlon Vera, Chito Vera, gets the big stock bump after defeating Davey Grant in the manner in which he did, and we just saw Adrian Yanez basically pick apart Davey Grant on the feet for 3 rounds. Was it a little back and forth? It was a little bit, but Yanez was rolling with a lot of those shots. He wasn't really eating the brunt of a lot of those shots. I think at this point, AJ, the question becomes, is Adrian Yanez right now a top 20, top 23 fighter, or is he now a top 15 fighter after the performance he just put on against Davey Grant? Now, before you answer this, let me just add one last part. You don't necessarily have to have a number next to your name to be able to be looked at as their top 15 in the world, right? So even if he does not get a number on his name in either of our rankings or the UFC's consensus rankings come Tuesday, is this man a top 15 fighter or a top 20 to 23 fighter, AJ? What do you think?
I like the way you phrased that, Derek. Even though he doesn't have a number next to his name, is he still a top 15 fighter? 100%. It's actually a little, I'll save the full take for the actual matchmaking, but I do believe that Adrian Yanez is 100% a top 15 fighter. He deserves that level of competition. He's worked hard for it, and he has the talent to actually get past a lot of these people. Now, with how the matchmaking is going to go, there's some options. We'll get to that a little bit later. But I do think his skill set and the way he goes about everything, and not only that, the way his mindset has changed now that he's become the head coach of his camp, he really has the skill set going forward in order to be the top 15, breaking into the top 10 here soon with his next matchup, depending on how that goes. It's just going to be interesting to see where the matchmakers actually put this guy so that thought that I just had can actually be portrayed to the rest of the MMA community, because I think a lot of the people out there still think he's very untested. And I know a lot of the times when an opponent like Davey Grant gets beat by Chito Vera in such a definitive fashion, and then by Adrian Yanez, just a little bit less definitive. A lot of people look down on that last fighter who didn't do it as well as the first one, and they don't give him as much credit as before. But don't get me wrong, man. Davey Grant is an absolute dog, and the fact that Yanez was able to bloody him up as he did, roll with those punches like you're talking about, and not get hurt while delivering a lot of damage spoke volumes to me. And I do think that Adrian Yanez going forward is that top 15 level competition. What do you think, Derek? Is he up there, or is he a little bit lower in that top 20? What do you think?
If you look at the people who were foreshadowing a little bit, have been calling him out after the fight, and who now want a little piece of the Adrian Yanez pie, I think it indicates in and of itself that he's the top 15 fighter. But then if you look at the way that his pure boxing is and the inability for people to get him to the ground, which Davey Grant tried one shot, zero success on that one, man. And he didn't shoot in again, so that's interesting. We'll talk about that more in a second. But people haven't been able to get him to the ground. He's basically boxing up everybody on the feet, making it look easy. I think it was Bilal Muhammad who tweeted. He said that Adrian Yanez is the best boxer in the UFC. I think Max Holloway would like to have a word with him about that. But either way, I think that the man is, in my book, he is a top 15 fighter. And here's the way that we prove this, AJ, because like we said earlier, you don't have to have a number next to your name to be a top 15 fighter. Will he be a top 15 fighter in your rankings come Tuesday. AJ, is he better right now? Do you think he gets the better of in a matchup, 3 rounds right now, ready to go? Sugar Sean O'Malley. Can he get it done? I know we're foreshadowing, brother, but this is how we have to determine. Can he be 15, 14, 13? Are we there? Can he get it done over the Sugar Show?
I don't think so, man. I just don't see it getting done with how snappy and how long Sugar Show is. I think it would take a different approach for Adrian Yanez instead of being the counter striker, instead of being the one doing that stuff. I think that Sugar Show just gets the best of him at his own game, personally.
What about Song Yadong?
I think Yadong is just too strong, man. I think he just has the power, he has the technique, and he's not gonna get, when he does get hit and get bloodied up, he's not gonna fade at all. That strength's gonna stay there. It's gonna be, that one's a little bit closer of a fight in my opinion, just stylistically, because Giannis can have that counter shots going, but I think Song Yadong is just a little too rough for him.
Okay, and I feel terrible about saying this next one, AJ, but just hear me out. The answer, Frankie Edgar. Can he get it done over the OG veteran, the former champion?
Oh man, I feel bad as well. But the way the streak has been going for Frankie Edgar, I think this is Adrian Yanez's perfect opportunity to get it done. I think the fact that Davey Grant, because Davey Grant is a very good wrestler, and the fact that he shot once, felt the hips, felt how things were going, he's like, you know what, I'm not going to waste my energy doing that again. I think Frankie Edgar will have a lot harder of a time getting things done against Adrian Yanez. That might be the one, even though he's higher up on my list. That might be the one that gives Adrian Yanez the hardest time.
Well, so that's the point that I want to make here. Either an adjustment needs to be made in regards to where Frankie Edgar is in your rankings, or Adrian Yanez has found himself to be a top 10 fighter. You know what I mean? It's either one of those things, because you got Frankie Edgar at number 10. You know what I'm saying? I have Frankie Edgar at 15 in my rankings. I think he can get it done in a very close, contested matchup against Frankie Edgar, because he is no slouch, man. He's no scrub, even though he's lost a couple, got highlight reel. That's whatever. But he's 15 in my book, so I think Adrian Yanez might be entering my top 15. However, I'm undecided, and if anything, he is for sure in my top 17 fighters. I know that's a very arbitrary cutoff number, but yeah, I think he's in my top 17. What do you think? What are your final words on this one, brother?
Yeah, this one's a hard one to me, because I was looking at my rankings earlier before this one, and to me, the styles make the fights, man. Because could Frankie Edgar get it done against Sean O'Malley with the wrestling? Maybe that might be a better match. Where I think Giannis's wrestling is better than Sean O'Malley's. So that's where the mix-up kind of happens, man. I don't really know exactly where I'm going to put Yanez going forward. There's a lot of stylistic change-ups that needs to be happening. It's going to be interesting to see how, I'm going to have a sit down, have a brain session on this one. It's going to be interesting to see how it does, but I really do think in this division, that top 20 of fighters, really it depends on the dog of the night and what stylistically, how those matchups are going to be going. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm excited for where the bantamweight's going forward with the matchups in the future, man. It's going to be a crazy mix-em-up unfolding.
Absolutely. And once again, it just goes to show how stacked this division is, man. And I guess lastly, I'll just finish by saying Adrian Yanez went into this fight ranked about number 26. So either way, man, he's in there. He's up there. We're in that range. If you're that 25, 26 top fighter, I mean, it's going to be very difficult for, people to deny you for too long, outside of that top 15, top 20, whatever you want to call it. But